Imagine a world where only the wealthy and elite had access to knowledge, where books were rare, handwritten treasures locked away in monasteries. That was reality until one invention flipped the script: the printing press. When Johannes Gutenberg introduced it in the 15th century, he didn't just create a machine, he sparked a revolution. Suddenly, ideas could spread like wildfire, literacy rates soared, and the foundation for modern education, science, and democracy was laid. But how exactly did this invention change the course of history, and why is its impact still felt today? Today, we will talk about the invention that changed history: the printing press. So before we get started, make sure to hit that like button, also subscribe to my channel. Before the printing press, a world without mass communication. Before the invention of the printing press, books were copied by hand, usually by monks in monasteries. This process was incredibly slow and labor-intensive. A single book could take months or even years to complete. As a result, books were rare and extremely expensive. Only kings, nobles, and the church could afford them. Literacy rates were low, and most people never had the chance to read or learn anything beyond what they were told by local authorities. In ancient civilizations like Egypt, China, and Rome, early forms of printing existed, but they were limited in scale. Woodblock printing and handwritten scrolls allowed for some duplication, but they were no match for the growing demand for knowledge that was beginning to emerge in Europe. People were becoming curious. Universities were forming. Scholars wanted access to ideas, but there was no efficient way to spread information. The world was ready for change. And that change came in the mid-15th century. Johannes Gutenberg and the birth of the printing press. In the 1440s, a German inventor named Johannes Gutenberg introduced the world to the mechanical movable type printing press. This invention combined existing technologies in a brand new way. Gutenberg used metal movable type, oil-based ink, and a wooden press similar to those used in winemaking. Together, these innovations allowed him to produce books quickly, efficiently, and more affordably than ever before. The first major book Gutenberg printed was the Bible. Known as the Gutenberg Bible, it became one of the most beautiful and important books in history. Unlike the handwritten versions, this Bible was clear, consistent, and could be reproduced hundreds of times. Suddenly, the Word of God, and eventually the words of scientists, philosophers, and writers, could reach people all across Europe. What Gutenberg created wasn't just a machine. He created a revolution: the explosion of knowledge across Europe. Once Gutenberg's printing press began to spread, everything changed. In the years that followed, thousands of presses appeared in cities across Europe. Within a few decades, millions of books were printed and circulated. Ideas that had once been confined to isolated universities and religious institutions were now in the hands of the general public. The printing press gave birth to the information age. For the first time, people could read and think for themselves. They didn't have to rely on priests or scholars to interpret the world. They could read science, literature, philosophy, and religion in their own homes. This explosion of knowledge didn't just lead to more books. It led to more curiosity, more questions, and more progress. The Renaissance, which had already begun, received a massive boost. Thinkers like Galileo, Newton, and Descartes were able to share their discoveries widely. Artists and writers like Leonardo da Vinci, William Shakespeare, and Erasmus found new audiences. The world was waking up. The role of the printing press in the Reformation. One of the most powerful examples of the printing press's impact was the Protestant Reformation. In 1517, a German monk named Martin Luther challenged the authority of the Catholic Church by nailing his 95 Theses to a church door. But it wasn't the act itself that changed the world. It was what happened next. Thanks to the printing press, Luther's ideas were copied, translated, and distributed across Europe within weeks. People who had never questioned the church began to ask hard questions. They read the Bible in their own languages, studied religious texts, and debated theology. The Reformation divided Europe, and led to centuries of religious and political conflict. But it also led to greater freedom of thought and belief. Without the printing press, Luther's message might have been silenced. But with it, he became one of the first public figures in history to reach a mass audience. The power of print gave individuals the ability to challenge authority and the Enlightenment. The printing press didn't just affect religion, it also changed science. Before the press, scientific knowledge was passed down slowly, often with errors. After the press, scientists could share discoveries quickly and precisely. This made it possible for others to repeat experiments, challenge results, and build on previous work. Books about astronomy, anatomy, physics, and mathematics circulated throughout Europe. The scientific method developed. Thinkers like Copernicus, Kepler, and Galileo found support in the printed word. Isaac Newton's groundbreaking work, Principia Mathematica, spread ideas that would shape the future of science and technology. This exchange of knowledge helped spark the Enlightenment, a period in which reason, logic, and observation became the foundation of modern thinking. Ideas about democracy, human rights, and personal freedom began to take hold. The printing press didn't just print words, it printed the seeds of revolution, the birth of journalism and public opinion. As printing technology improved, newspapers began to appear. These printed papers brought daily news to the public and helped shape public opinion. People could now read about events happening in their cities, their countries, and even on other continents. Governments could no longer control all the information. The press became a tool of democracy, and sometimes a threat to those in power. Education, literacy, and the common citizen. The printing press made books more affordable and accessible, which led to a rise in literacy. Schools began to use printed textbooks. More people learned to read, not just the rich or religious, but farmers, merchants, and craftsmen. Knowledge was no longer a luxury, it was becoming a right. The legacy of the printing press today. Today we live in a digital age. Information is shared online, and books are read on screens. But the foundation of this global knowledge network started with the printing press. Gutenberg's invention was the first great leap in communication technology. Without it, there would be no newspapers, no libraries, no public education, and no internet. A revolution in ink and paper. The printing press changed the course of history. It empowered individuals, challenged authority, and opened the world to new ideas. It helped create the modern world we live in today, one where knowledge is free, voices can be heard, and the truth has the power to move millions. What do you think of our video? Let me know in the comment section below. Before you go, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.